Out of the many players I've met in Rise of Kingdoms, there's always something everyone gets wrong with their account. Even myself, I do some things wrong with my account, but there are 10 really dire mistakes that if you make, you could be completely hindering your account's progress. So today, I'll be telling you the top 10 noob mistakes that people make. Even if you are a veteran of the game, you may as well watch this video, so just in case you are making any of these mistakes, you can improve on it, and I will give you tips along the way to make your account even better, so you can get an advantage over all of your enemies. Let's start off with number 10, and that is the least detrimental mistake, and that is not really fighting barbarians much and not really doing barbarian forts. So basically not spending your action points. Action points are the free currency you get by just being offline or online. They replenish around 1 point every 30 to 40 seconds. You can get bonuses on your action points from your VIP, and also some KVK technologies for KVK 3 will also give you more action points. Action points are pretty much the most valuable thing in Rise of Kingdoms. You can use them to fight barbarians. You can use them to fight barbarian forts. You can use them to do a lot of events such as Kurak. You can even use them for KVK when you fight marauders. So things like that are very, very important, and action points are important. Another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with not spending your action points is spending your action point bottles. A lot of people tend to just use a bunch of these when they don't need them. Only use these if there is an event going on that's going to give you value. Really, you only save action point recovery bottles, which are all these bottles I'm showing you on screen. These are basically only used for events such as grinding honor in KVK, and KVK is what I'm in right now, doing Marauders, which is a pre-KVK event, or if you're pushing Mightiest Governor, doing Lohar's Trial, or doing a bunch of Barbarian Fort grinding. They are the only times you really use your action points. Otherwise, make sure you're saving your action point bottles. Keep in mind you do get a free 500 daily action point recovery, so make sure you use that every single day. And also, just make sure you keep your action points usually below 1,500. You don't need to really sit around and grind them 24/7. It's not the end of the world if you miss a day or two, but it is obviously better if you just come on and hit a couple of barbarians. Mistake number 9 is that you're not keeping your things in your city running. In the early game, this includes building and researching. In the late game, you don't really do much building, you don't do much researching. But here's what you should have running in your city at all times. First of all, make sure you got materials running pretty much 24/7. They are free, and you just have to log on basically twice a day to do this. You just pop in whichever material you need, and it's going to be completely free. Then make sure your troops are running. If you can keep them training 24/7, that's great. Sometimes what I like to do is train just enough troops so that when I log on the next time, so I pretty much schedule out my day so that if I'm going to log on within like the next 7 hours, I'll train just enough troops to train within 7 hours, and then I'll train more overnight. Stuff like that is something I try to do. So instead of training a full 2,000 troops, I might train 800 troops, for example. Also, another thing you want to keep running is make sure that you're doing your Mysterious Merchant. I know this isn't really running it, but this is a part of your base. Try and do Mysterious Merchant. Don't really buy stuff that costs gems in here unless you're a whale. Speed ups and the resource tokens themselves are pretty good. These boosts over here are only good if you're in the earlier game or if you need the boost to keep them running for your city. Also, something that I'm not doing right now, make sure your boosts are running. This goes also with keeping things running in your city. Boosts, once you get your mines past level 16, will pay you more than they cost to purchase. So keep your boosts running as much as you can. These boosts will be the gathering boost, or your food, or your gold boost, or your stone boost, and or your wood boost. You don't need to have attack and defense, and you don't need anti-reconnaissance or the deceptive troops boost running at all times. Noob mistake number 8 is not having a farm account. And yes, these are sometimes considered optional, but having a efficient farm account is going to be much better than not having one. I can say from personal experience, playing my farm very lightly, I'm not very active on my farm, to be honest, I still make around 300 million total resources per KVK, which is a great number for a farm account. So make sure you try and make a farm account. I got a video on how to make a farm account, which is in the card on the top right now. Farm accounts are really good. They're going to give you a ton of resources. They require very low maintenance. You pretty much don't have to do the stuff you do on your main account. I don't train troops on my farm. I try to make materials as much as I can, but even then, they don't matter too much. So just make sure you log onto your farm every now and again, maybe do a building upgrade, and just send your gatherers out like twice a day, and you'll be pretty set. You'll get a nice amount of resources, which you can use later in KVK. Plus, it's just another way to gather more resources for your main account, and it's always good to have more gatherers out than have no gatherers out. Noob mistake number 7 is not rushing your city hall. This means that you're like maxing every building before you upgrade your city hall. The best thing to do for any new account is to pretty much take your city hall up to the highest level you can as soon as you can. This will give you access to newer and more powerful technology, so it's really important that you do this. It is not like other games, for example, Clash of Clans, where you don't take your city hall up. In Rise of Kingdoms, you want to rush that as soon as you can. With your research, you may take a bit of a slower approach. Don't max everything, especially in the economic trees. The main research you should look at are mathematics, engineering, machinery, anything that's going to give you an all-round buff, especially stuff that's going to boost your building and research speed are important. You can also get, like I said, machinery that is good for gathering speed. Don't really focus too much on resource production. They're not that good. Resource production is okay, but it's not as important as having more gathering speed. Noob mistake number 6 is not being in one of your top alliances. Most kingdoms will have a fairly standout top alliance, and then a standout second best alliance, and then a usually standout third best alliance. If you are not some way related with those alliances, it's actually pretty bad for your account. Often top alliances have people who spend money who will give you chests. Also, top alliances can do events, they fight in KVK, they get more rewards. That's always important to keep in mind when you are looking for being in a top alliance. Also, being in a top alliance can allow you to build connections with people in your kingdom, and even mostly it can be more fun than being in a smaller alliance. So if you have an account that has the potential of being in one of your kingdom's top alliances, I highly recommend joining there. It's going to give you more rewards, and usually it's going to help out your kingdom more in the end than it will be than being in a smaller alliance. Plus, being in a bigger alliance with more active people means that you will receive helps from your alliance center quicker, which is extremely important because helps reduce all your building times by a lot, and they are really, really good. Also, top alliances tend to have completely maxed alliance tech, which once again give you another massive buff to your city, developing your city in battle, and just doing your normal barbarian hunting and daily tasks such as those. Noob mistake number 5, and we're moving into some of the worst noob mistakes right now, are not managing your troops properly. And what I mean by this is A, deleting troops of a lower tier, so if you disband any lower tier troops, or B, if you're just gemming troops and just speeding them up randomly. Troop training is something that, yes, is going to give you more power and give you more troops, but really what makes your troops powerful are your commanders. And for the most part, you could have 0 troops but good commanders, and you're still going to beat someone who has 20 million troops but garbage commanders. That's pretty much how that goes. So if you're training a bunch of troops for no reason, you're spending all your gems on like instant training troops, you're spending all your speed ups on just training as many troops as you can, you're wasting your speed ups, you're wasting your gems. So what you'd want to do with troops is only train them if there's an event running, only train them if you really need them for KVK. Don't train them thinking it's going to make you stronger. Yes, having a full march of troops is better than not having a full march, so obviously you want to have at least one full march of troops. But for the most part, if you have at least 400k troops in your city for whichever troop type you want to use, and you run around 2 marches or even just 1 march for that troop type, you're going to be fine. You don't need millions of troops. They are useless for the most part. You don't need those troops to actually become worse for your account, having too many troops. And they're definitely not worth gemming unless you're a mega whale pushing events such as the Zenith of Power or Mightiest Governor. Otherwise, just save your speed ups, use them when they're going to give you lots of value. For example, when there's an event going that's going to give you items such as gold heads and materials, then you use your speed ups. Otherwise, just save them and relax. You don't need to train troops right away. They're going to make your city slightly more defensible, but they're going to be pretty useless beyond that. Noob mistake number 4 is not really managing your speed ups in really simple ways. For example, you can receive, when your alliance center is maxed, up to 30 help. Helps are something you can request from your alliance completely for free on all building upgrades, all research, and all healing of troops. Helps are really, really important. They can cut down the upgrade time of research by up to 100 days overall. It is amazing to get max helps, so make sure A, you're focusing on alliance center, but B, you're waiting for your helps. You can check how many helps you're at by going into your alliance center, clicking this button right here that says help, and you'll see whichever thing you requested the helps for, plus the number of helps that you've received compared to how many helps you need to receive. Make sure you're getting that maxed out. Then if you're doing a major upgrade, either your city hall to 25, for example, or in your academy doing a research such as unlocking T5 or doing some of these other major technologies, make sure that you're getting a rune, make sure you're getting the scientist buff. You can request the scientist buff in your kingdom chat. Runes are also really good because they can give you up to a 15% boost for whatever you're trying to do. For example, a purple rune of building, a rune of artifice 4, gives you a building speed of plus 10%. And on an upgrade that takes 50 days, that's like a reduction of 5 days worth of speed ups, which is a lot of speed ups. So make sure you're getting your runes and getting your titles when you are doing these upgrades. It's super simple and it can save you tons of speed ups. Same thing goes for healing, same thing goes for research. Really important you're doing those as well. If you're not in the top alliance during this time, I highly recommend, if you're doing a major upgrade, message one of the leaders of the alliance, say, hey, can I come just to do this one upgrade and get the helps? They'll almost always say yes, because it's going to be better for the kingdom if people are using less speed ups and can use them in KVK. New mistake number 3 is making the wrong equipment. Equipment is something that really boosts your commanders. If you have some of the best commanders in the whole of Rise of Kingdoms, yet your equipment is very weak, you can expect those commanders to trade very averagely, or if not below average. They could actually be trading bad if you have very bad equipment. So equipment is very important, and you can get equipment, like I said, basically for free by just doing materials production. One thing a lot of free-to-play players, low spenders, and a lot of newer players tend to fall into a trap of is making anything in the equipment chests. For example, they might get the Shadow Legion's Retribution Blueprint and make that right away because it's in the crystal chest, it's free, it looks good because it's legendary, but really if you go a little bit below the surface and you're a bit more experienced in the game, you'll know that the Shadow Legion's chestplate is not very good because the Cavalry chestplate itself will give you straight up health. So it's always good to look into the alternatives. Some of these can only be purchased with gems, so you need to really do your research before you make any legendaries. Often, if you just ask in your alliance chat, there will be someone who knows the equipment system fairly well. Usually, what's in the crystal chest is not very good, but out of everything in there, here are some of the standout items. Milky Way is only good if you're not making a full archer set. The Navas control is really good. The Ash of the Dawn is really good. I hear Eternal Night is pretty good as well. Other than that, most of these legendaries would be a skip, in my opinion. I mean, I guess Sacred Groups is okay for like a mixed garrison, but nowadays you can get leadership gear, so probably not. Hope Cloak as well, I've heard is pretty good, but for the most part, just stick to either Hope Cloak, the Vast Control, Eternal Night, or Ash of the Dawn. They're the best things you could get from the Crystal Chest. Everything else there is a waste of your materials. Also, if you're making materials, make sure you're focusing on whichever one your equipment or your troop type needs the most. For example, if you're looking to make cavalry equipment, you want to get as much leather as possible since cav equipment takes a lot of leather gear. Infantry equipment is iron, and archer equipment is ebony, so make sure you are focusing on all of those materials, depending on which equipment you're trying to focus on at the moment. Also, hand in hand with equipment is accessories, and I know a lot of newer players tend to make a mistake here. The best accessories for epics are the Silent Trial and the Delane's Amulet. I wouldn't be making Lohar's Bow Necklace, or I wouldn't be making Savage Totem. Call of the Loyal is okay. Anything that's gathering resources, any of that, for an epic accessory is not worth it. The Barbarian XP is certainly not worth it. So really you're left between Wind Scars, the Delane's Amulet, sometimes Ancient Stratagems is okay, especially for Sunset Canyon, and Silent Trail. For legendary accessories, you're really only looking at around 4 or so. The best being Ring of Doom and Horn of Fury. The second best being the debuff accessories, which are the Concealed Dagger and the Mora's Web. Some people like Vengeance, some people like the Kurok's War Drums and the Seth's Call, but in my opinion, I think most free-to-play low spenders are looking at the first 4 accessories that I mentioned. Another thing that goes with equipment is a lot of newer players fall into the trap of constantly refining your equipment. Yes, this is going to make your march better, but if you want to run more than one march, or like want to run multiple marches in general, you're going to need more equipment sets, so if you get some of these more expensive blueprints, such as Dragon Breath's helmet, or really any of the gem blueprints that cost you gems from gem events, then I wouldn't really be refining them until you've got a very, very solid 3-march murder ball. In the meantime, just make as much new equipment as you can. There's a chance that you get a talent. For example, I got a talent on my Boudica set, but refining overall is going to cost you more materials and is going to give you less stats than if you just made new equipment. So if you've already got like a full legendary set on 1 march, move to 2 marches. And then if you've got a 2 march in a very good spot, move to 3 marches. That's what I'd recommend doing with your equipment, especially you don't really need to focus on refining them a crap load. Usually you will be able to get an adequate set before you have it all special talented. You can, however, refine epic equipment. It's actually pretty good in that situation. Since epics are really easy to access, you can get them from crystal chests, and a ton of events just give you a bunch of epic blueprints, which are going to go to waste. The second biggest new mistake, and depending on how bad you've done this, could actually be an account killing mistake, is spending your gems in the wrong place. For most players, if you are spending gems, I highly recommend, especially in the earlier stage of the game, it goes all in your VIP until you reach around VIP 12 at least. VIP 12 gives you access to 2 legendary commander sculptures per day, allowing you to expertise at least 1 commander per year by just logging in. So VIP 12 is really good. VIP 10 is another good spot to stop if you just want to put some gems into Wheel of Fortune. But for the most part, VIP is going to be your best value for your gems. I basically spent most of my gems on VIP and equipment until I reached VIP 14. After VIP 14, VIP 15 is very good, not completely necessary, and after VIP 15, it's kind of just whale stuff. Yes, you get some minor boosts, but for the most part, VIP 15 is usually where most free-to-play players completely stop spending their gems on VIP. Also, with your gems, make sure you're using them on the right events. For the most part, Wheel of Fortune is a decent event for only unlocking commanders, unless you're spending gems to really get a commander to a higher level. then I wouldn't really be going too far in Wheel of Fortune. You can pretty much expertise those commanders for free. The Hunt for History, which is the dig event, basically there's a pyramid and you have to get blueprints, is another event which I wouldn't recommend spending too many gems on, because you can also get there for free. You can just grind those hammers and they carry over between events, so you don't have to spend your gems to buy more hammers in those. Spending gems to speed up buildings, spending gems to speed up troops or research, and buying any speed ups with gems is also really bad value. Spending gems in your tavern and spending your gems in your legendary chests are also extremely bad value as well, and don't do it. Try not to gem your Lucerne scrolls. A lot of things you just really shouldn't be using gems on. For the most part, if you're buying stuff from the VIP shop, you want to stick to the resource only things, so speed ups, action points, materials that cost resources only. You wouldn't really be spending your gems here. If you want to buy speed ups for whatever reason, then this is the best spot to do it. But I highly recommend spending your gems elsewhere, for example, Wheel of Fortune, which will give you better value, even in speed ups. Now, the biggest new mistake is really what I specialize in, and that is commander investments. If you pick the wrong commanders as a new account, you've pretty much screwed yourself over. I know a lot of new players who, for example, put a bunch of gold heads in Cao Cao, and then they completely regret it. Because trust me, after the early game, pretty much every single commander that you had access to is going to become completely useless, besides a few, which I'll quickly name them. In the earlier stages of the game, the most powerful commanders are Julius Caesar. I don't recommend putting gold heads into him. Mehmed, I don't recommend putting gold heads into him because you can get them for free from your gold chests. Minamoto, you can only buy him for money, so you can't really mess up with him. Saladin is an okay commander. Alexander the Great's an okay commander. And YSG. They're the best commanders in the early game. Other than that, you shouldn't be putting any gold heads in any other commanders. And Ethelflaed is completely free, so you don't need to put any gold heads in her. Also, once you reach into Season of Conquest, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, make sure you invest in the meta, because investing in the meta is always better. That's the best saying you can live by. Investing in the meta is better, because if you choose meta commanders, you know they're going to stay in power. If you don't know which commanders are the current meta, you can pretty much just Google Rise of Kingdoms Best March for troop type, and you'll find thousands of videos on it. So look into whichever videos are most recent. Whichever commanders they mention are often going to be the best commanders for you to choose. Make sure that you are making educated choices depending on your account and equipment as well. For example, if you don't have any infantry equipment, don't invest in infantry commanders till you either get a set of infantry equipment, or if you are really focusing in on infantry and you're going to be making a bunch of infantry equipment very soon, then you can consider getting them. Also, if for the earlier stages of the game, make sure you're sticking with powerful research. So if you got high research for archers, then maybe you'll consider going for archer commanders when you reach Season of Conquest, just as an example. With commanders, another thing that comes hand in hand is museum relics. For a lot of players now, you may be spending your exhibit coins and your relic coins a little bit more open-handedly. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. Lilith is completely limiting how many relic coins you have access to. So make sure you're making your museum choices wisely. The best relics for you people who've newly arrived to Season of Conquest: YSG's relic, so Yi Song-Ye, Mehmed's relic, Julius Caesar's relic, and Minamoto's relic. They're the 4 best relics you have access to. Otherwise, I wouldn't really be buying any of the other ones. They're more whale commanders, and most players don't even use them anyways. One last honorable mention is when you are spending money, if you are a lower spender or a free-to-play, make sure you're buying the right bundles. Often the daily special offer is pretty good value. The super value bundles are rubbish. Don't buy any of these for the most part unless you're a bigger spender. The special pop-up bundles such as Flames of War, for the most part, are completely rubbish as well. I don't think there's really many exceptions to this, except sometimes there are some events where if you purchase their currency, you get gems in return. Those aren't good value, but you will see videos on those when they come out. So don't really bother buying any of these unique bundles that pop up saying they're like limited time and they're not going to come back. Usually they A, will come back in a different form, or B, they're just very bad value and not worth your money. The gem store is also really bad value. Do not spend any money here. Same thing with the special resource bundle. It's a whale only thing. The supply depot is really good if you're looking to get gems. It's a very good value here. Speed ups is pretty decent value. I'm not sure about resources. I think these are okay value compared to the special resource bundle. But once again, the main thing here is the 30-day gem supply. Another mistake a lot of players make when spending money is, especially as a lower spender or free-to-play, you just refresh this whenever. Don't do that. Make sure you try and refresh it around the time of a recharge event so you can maybe earn yourself 10 or so gold heads. Now, I just want to say one quick thing. These videos take a lot of time and a lot of effort to make. And all I'm asking from you guys is to consider subscribing to the channel. It is a really small action. It allows you to see more of my videos, and it helps support me as a content creator. It is very much appreciated. To all the current subscribers, I thank you very much. Now, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.